Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Book Trek 2023, the summer of Trek. This is a summer-long celebration of all things Star Trek novels, Star Trek short stories, Star Trek pastiches of all kinds. I would say also the ongoing Star Trek show, Strange New Worlds, but I can't get my co-host to talk about it with me. Maybe I'll have to do some sort of a video or review or a live stream on my own about Strange New Worlds. But in the meantime, I've been overdoing it for Book Trek. Sorry, I'm looking off to one side because there is a bunny rabbit in the field over yonder that's just peacefully eating in the middle of the field. The suicide bunny is what I call him because he is too far away from any kind of shelter to escape if a hawk were to stoop on him out of the noonday sky. He is too far away to be saved. He is eating in the middle of a field, exactly like you would eat in the middle of an Arby's. It's just crazy. Whereas if your Arby's were transported to, I don't even know, the Triassic period, you might still have the same hunger for Arby's food, but you'd be looking up all the time. Not the suicide bunny. But anyway, I've been overdoing things for Book Trek. I've been reading Star Trek every night, and also rereading, because I've read a lot of Star Trek stuff, and picking pretty much at random. And I picked a random things last night, a novel that I read when it first came out. And I thought, when I read it when it first came out, probably 20 years ago, I thought, boy, oh boy, that was thin and that was silly. And a wasted opportunity. And then I read it again. I read it again last night thinking, well, I was thinking the opposite of what actually happened. I was thinking the positive side. I was thinking, well, maybe there are things in there that you missed, good stuff in there that you missed. No, I was dead wrong. It's twice as bad as I thought originally. It's this thing. It's Star Trek: The Fearful Summons, and that is the Excelsior on the cover there. That is Captain Sulu and the Excelsior, and that's what this is. It's a Sulu adventure, but it is also a reunion of the original bridge crew, because Sulu is captain of the Excelsior when this thing starts. When they encounter a ship, it's Sulu's Vulcan science officer says, we know something about the race that mans these ships. They're not that well known. They're not part of the Federation. They're claiming that they're in distress, but their signs look ambiguous. I don't think they are in distress, and Sulu doesn't think so either. He thinks, they're exaggerating the distress that they're in. They want to beam over the entirety of their crew, 50 people, to the Excelsior. Sulu says, no, there's no reason to do that. We'll just beam over a repair crew. You've got plenty of time. Your ship's not going to blow up. The thought never seems to cross Captain Sulu's mind that this might be a trick. Some kind of trick. Despite the fact that he himself goes on and on about the meaning of the term Trojan horse, and despite the fact that his Vulcan science officer is telling him, basically, this is a trick, he still beams over, himself, with a whole bunch of other key personnel, no security detail, no arms, no weapons of any kind, and they're immediately taken hostage. I hadn't concentrated on that kind of detail when I read this the first time. I was concentrating mainly on there's a weird subtext here with Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk, at the time that this novel is set, is probably in his late 70s, his early 60s, or his late 60s, early 70s. And yet, there's a sex subplot in here that... Anyway, I was concentrating on the wrong things. I was concentrating on the original crew here, and I shouldn't have been. Because that is just daft. That is just bad writing for that to happen. For the inciting incident of this book to happen at all is just bad writing. Sulu has lots and lots of experience. He would not have done that. But he and his entourage are immediately taken captive, and word of this gets to retired Jim Kirk, and he decides to get the band back together to reassemble, find Bones McCoy, find Spock, find everybody. You find them in their retirements and go out to help Sulu. So in bare bones, any get the band back together Star Trek thing, I love the idea of that, no matter what. getting what I consider to be the greatest crew in Starfleet history back together for one more adventure is always a fun idea for me, but not when it's done like this. When I read this originally, I was getting off on what the alt-right fascists on YouTube refer to as member berries. I was getting off on all the little original fan Easter eggs. And I guess that was the whole purpose. I guess that was the game plan here, because it worked. I was enjoying that stuff so much that the first time I went through this, I ignored the large chunks of how stupid a book this is, and was thinking instead that I was just chuckling to myself that the Fearful Summons seems to refer, the title, The Fearful Summons, seems to refer to what happens if you're called upon to be Jim Kirk's bedmate. When he doesn't have his mojo anymore and he's old and fat, he's an old ex-admiral or whatever. I don't know what the Fearful Summons was in this book. If it isn't that, I don't know what it is. That you're a pretty young thing at a Starfleet gift shop and suddenly Jim Kirk is saying, "Oh, I don't even have your phone number." Got a little bit of a... Sorry, I'm totally obsessed by the Suicide Bunny. I am going to watch that creature die. I know that I am. He waddles out to the middle of a field every day and just eats all day long without looking up, without seeming to care where he is. And I've noticed it, so it's only a matter of time until a Cooper's Hawk notices it, and then he's going to go from eating to being eaten, and I'm going to see it happen. And hear it happen, because the Hawk will take him on the ground. It'll snap his neck on the ground, but it'll then go up to a roost somewhere, flip the Suicide Bunny over, and rip the Suicide Bunny's guts out while the Suicide Bunny is alive. The air will be full of little tufts of fur for the next day. I know I'm going to see that happen, so I'm a little distracted. Not by my own little Suicide Bunny. No. It's not hot here, but it's quite humid. Oh my. So, there we go. Pretty much the only good thing in a book this bad. Oh, there you go. Oh, stretch those glutes. Oh. Anyway, there were a couple of moments in here that had me, cheering when I originally read this. A couple of great, out of retirement moments between McCoy and Spock, or between Kirk and Spock, or whatnot. But now that I'm reading it the second time, oh my God, oh my God, those things are carrying the whole book, and they can't do it. Even those moments are bad. Even those moments are out of character. Most of them are out of character. Nobody acts right in this book, and we've dealt with that aspect of pastiche fiction before, which is that if Pocket Books gives you the go-ahead, it's not a question of you just getting your manuscript in on time. The characters aren't yours. So they've got to resonate. They've got to be recognizable to the characters that the fans are buying the book in order to read about. You are not making them up. This author, it's a little blurred there on the cover, but this author has a kind of talent for making up characters. A couple of the alien characters that don't agree with each other are fairly well drawn in this book, but that's not what you read a Star Trek novel for. This was just awful. It was a whole cast of total strangers bearing the names of people I know really well. So I think I might veer away from anything connected with the original series. I think this was mainly meant to sort of take us forward from the original series. This is right at the edge of that timeline. Our crew has retired. Sulu is a well-established, although apparently booby, captain in his own right, and will continue on presumably for years and years. We don't know the career of the Excelsior. So we don't know what happens to Sulu. In between now, I imagine there's probably 50 years between this and the launch of the Enterprise D. Maybe a little more than that. So we don't know what happens to Sulu and his crew. We don't know what kind of adventures they have. But in order to get even fan fiction about that sort of thing, I'm going to have to get better than this. And the one temptation that I have here that I really shouldn't fall for is that a while ago, a long time ago, decades ago, there was a series of Star Trek books about the Lost Era, which is that 70 years between the very last end of the original series, the movies, Kirk in retirement, all that sort of thing, Kirk dying on Viridian 3, the very last end of the original series, and the beginning of the Next Generation. That's a long time. That's a whole generation that's lost. And I think Pocket Books commissioned 6 or 7 novels set in that era. And one of them involves Sulu, and now I'm thinking maybe read that one again. I read it originally. I think it involved the Tholians, and had rather unconvincing bits to it. Maybe it's just cursed, a cursed period. No one's actually gone in and done this period. I think that Star Trek on TV should, while you still can, get a lot of recasting done. A lot of the stuff that you would need is probably already exists as sets and mock-ups and mats and whatnot. But anyway, it won't be this. That's for sure. It won't be this. So, unfortunately, my Book Trek entry for last night was a reread. I was thinking that I was going to find all sorts of extra good things in here that I missed the first time. But no. No, in fact, it was worse than I remembered. So we'll have to hope for better tonight. I'm going to keep on with a daily Book Trek video for the rest of June. There's only a few more days. And then after that, I will reassess. So that maybe, I'm not doing a Book Trek video every single day. Maybe I will reassess after that. Although you never know. I'm so enthusiastic about it. Even with a crappy reading experience like this, I'm so enthusiastic for this stuff that I might not be able to help myself. We shall see. I will wrap this up for now, and we will reconvene tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.